and welcome to codeLive. Today we will continue building our CLI application with oclif. Sadly, this is the last episode of the series, but I hope you have enjoyed this content that I have created for you. If you haven't seen the previous episodes, please go ahead to our YouTube channel, Salesforce Developers, click on the videos tab, and you can find the other videos of this series. So far, we have 3. When we were building a CLI application to manage tasks locally, mostly, we are storing those tasks locally. And the last thing we needed to do was synchronizing those tasks with Salesforce. For that, remember that on our previous episode, we saw how to rely on the open source CLI plugins that our team builds, or the Salesforce CLI team build, to perform the authentication against an org and to get that authentication information and a Salesforce connection to interact with the API easily. We are going to review the code before implementing the synchronization. Well, my name is Julian Duque. I'm a principal developer advocate here at Salesforce. I'm in charge of codeLive, but I'm not the only one that is creating content on codeLive. After this series, we are going to have Mohit Srivastava. He is going to be talking about basic Apex patterns. He has a series about Apex, and we are going to see more advanced patterns with Mo on the next episode. So thank you for joining me on this amazing CLI series. Then you are going to be in the best hands with Mo. And we have some other content prepared for you. We have some DevOps. We will be talking about building Salesforce CLI plugins. We have LWR. We have LWC for mobile. We have a bunch of other content created for you. So stay tuned every Thursday, same time, here at codeLive. Well, let's review. Let's do a little recap of what we built, what we have been using, the libraries we have been using, and so far what we have built. So we are using oclif, the OpenCLI framework, to build this CLI. This CLI is using Node.js and TypeScript, and it is running on our computers from the terminal, so we are able to interact with a local database. Our local database is SQLite3. Later, the idea or why we are learning all of this information is for us to be able to build plugins for the Salesforce CLI. Why? The Salesforce CLI is built using oclif. So all the fundamentals that we are learning with this series are going to be used for building Salesforce CLI plugins. And that way we can also understand how the Salesforce CLI works internally, how we are able to interact with the command line. And if you want to contribute, because it is an open source software, great, we are in Hacktoberfest. So if you want to start contributing to open source, what best that to contributing to a Salesforce project. So everything that we are learning is going to be useful in the future if you want to create plugins or contribute to the open source project. The Salesforce CLI created this organization in GitHub, github.com/Salesforce CLI, where you can find all of the different, not only the plugins, but also the core projects, SFDX CLI, which is the SFDX command, and the new CLI project, which is the SF command, what we call the CLI unification, where we are going to be adding a lot of different commands, and it's going to be more simple and with better DX, with better developer experience. Here on the status repository, you can find all of the different plugins that are available for the Salesforce CLI. Remember, we used the plugin authentication to be able to authenticate against an org from our tasks CLI project that we are building. And we are using the SFDX core, which is the basic library for us to get the authentication information and the connection object to interact with the Salesforce API, right? That's that's all the things we have been using. Now it is time for us to synchronize our CLI with Salesforce. So let's take a look at the CLI. We have this task CLI project. Oh, I forgot something. You can go to my GitHub repository, and I have this project, which is SF tasks CLI, and we have the code that we have been doing so far. So where we left on the previous week, all the code is in here if you wanna give it a try. I have received a couple of messages. People have been trying this code and they are able to connect to a Salesforce org. I wanna see what you can build with this, because you have ideas, you have your own problems. So it's great if you also share with me or share in Twitter or LinkedIn what you are building with this knowledge that you are getting. Awesome. So let's take a look. We created this CLI. We are running the development version. This CLI let me create tasks and list tasks that we have locally. We installed the authentication plugin so we can authorize an organization. So we have that authorization pretty much information here. And we created this topic called tasks when we are going to store all of the different commands that we are using. For example, we have created this new command and an alias, which is the create, to create a new task. We have the ls or list to list all the tasks. So far, we have this locally. If I execute ls, I'm going to get all of the different tasks that I store on my local database. The local database is on a file, so we are not using any network database, and it's part of kind of the configuration directory of our project. So it has a very few minor overhead, so we are not running a server to store this information. You can also pass the X flag to our command to show the extended version. Remember that in the extended version, we are showing the comments and the ID. This is the local ID, the ID that I'm using on my SQLite database. And if I execute new or create, it will ask me for the type of task or for the subject in Salesforce. Remember that we are trying to map this task with Salesforce. And here, let's say I will create a send letter and it create a new task. If I list, I'm going to have a new task on my local database called send letter. So far, we don't have anything in Salesforce. We are not storing this information in Salesforce, and that's the thing that we are going to do. We have an org. Let me open that org under this username. It is my trial org, the org that I use to create a lot of demos. And I have some tasks in here. So let me open the tasks tab. So I have some tasks in here. So what I want to do is to perform a synchronization of my tasks. All the local tasks, I want to push them to Salesforce, and all the Salesforce tasks, I want to pull them to my local database. And then I will be able to keep a synchronization between those two. If I modify one task in Salesforce that I already have locally, when I run the synchronization command, my local task also needs to be synchronized. The same happens if, for example, I delete a task. So we are going to see how to perform that synchronization using both the authentication information object that we saw on our previous episode and the connection object to interact with the API. Before we start with the code, in both Twitch and YouTube, go ahead, say hi. Tell me, where are you connecting from? What time is it in your city right now, in your country? Because usually people connect from everywhere. I'm located in the Tampa Bay in Florida, in United States. It is 1:11 here in the afternoon, and I'm super happy to be sharing this content with you. But go ahead, say hi in the chat. I see that we have Rohit. Rohit connected since before we started the codeLive, and he has been interacting with me on LinkedIn, asking me questions. So I'm super happy when people connect with me on different social networks and ask me about the content we are creating. So please go ahead, tell me where are you connecting from, interact with me, ask me questions. I will be more than happy to answer those live. Okay, let's take a look at the code. Where is my Visual Studio code? Awesome. So we created this sync command. Let me add a description here to make it better. This is synchronous tasks with Salesforce. And let's create some aliases. I want to have both sync. Yeah, let's create an alias sync so we have it at a root level. Remember that to invoke this command, we need to call it under the topic. Now with this alias, we don't need it, or we don't need to specify the topic. So how this looks like? Originally, I can show you the tasks. The tasks topic have all of these three commands that we created: new, list, and sync. But if I execute just the command, at a root level, I have some aliases, and I can create as many aliases as I want. So now you can see that I have the synchronize alias, and if I run the sync command, it will try to fetch the tasks from Salesforce. Remember that on our previous episode, we implemented just a basic query. We have an error. It is telling us that we require a flag, which is the target org. So we are going to specify the target org, and let pass the user. So it needs to know the org that I'm going to be using to pretty much synchronize the data or interact with the API. And now you can see all of these tasks are from Salesforce, the tasks that you saw on my organization. But we need to either store those tasks locally and also store the tasks that we have local into Salesforce to have like a bidirectional synchronization. How can we solve this problem? There are like different ways. What I want to do is keeping a reference of the Salesforce ID in my local database. That way, if a task doesn't have a Salesforce ID, it's a task that I need to create in Salesforce. If it has a Salesforce ID, it's a task that I need to update, right? That logic sounds logical, sounds good. I think so. We can get a little bit more complex if we want to use, for example, created date, updated date, and managing timestamps. I am not going into there. I'm just going to be synchronizing using the ID. How can we use the ID? Okay. So remember that when we run synchronize, we are getting the authentication information with that target org. Then we are getting a connection with that authentication information. And then we are running a query against Salesforce. And we are printing out the tasks. So the first step that we need to do is to get the local tasks that doesn't have a Salesforce ID and create the tasks in Salesforce. But we need to modify our database. So we created a library file called tasksdb. when the table doesn't exist on my database, I am creating it with the different fields, but I am missing one field, which is the Salesforce ID. So let me create the Salesforce ID as a task, and it can be null because I am going to be creating tasks without a Salesforce ID. Good, that's the first step. I need to create tasks without the Salesforce ID. Also, when I am creating a task, I need to pass the Salesforce ID. So I'm passing the Salesforce ID. Perfect. When I create a task. Good. What else do we need here? We have a type that represents the task. We need to pass also a Salesforce ID as a string. And this means that the field on my type is optional, that it can have undefined values. Like pretty much it can be null, it can be empty. By passing these a question mark here, I'm telling that this property is not required, it is optional. This is a feature of TypeScript. I think I have a comment, something in the chat. Awesome, Ravi from India. Oh yes, Ravi, you have spoken in Twitter before. Rohit is now in Malaysia. No name. Hello, you are from Belarus. Ravi is telling that he's unable to install any SFDX plugins since they have a private repository. Any idea how can I change the default registry for SFDX plugins from NPM to a private NPM? That is a very good question, Ravi. Hit me up on Twitter, send me a DM. My DMs are open if I am not following you. Send me a DM with that question and I will be able to follow up with the Salesforce CLI team. I know there might be a way to do it because some companies also have a private repositories, and with NPM you can reach out to a private repository by passing certain authentication information. So I'm pretty sure the team has worked with this problem before. So reach me out on Twitter with this question so I don't forget it, and I will follow up with the team to see if we have an answer for you. Awesome. Where was I? Okay, I added the Salesforce ID property on my database, and I need to modify the new command when I'm creating a new task to pass that Salesforce ID, right? But originally my Salesforce ID is going to be null. When I create a task locally, it doesn't have a Salesforce ID. So I am not requesting that Salesforce ID anywhere. Okay, it seems a null is not a valid value here. So I need to specify on my type, what is my type? That I can also receive null values. No iterators, null values. Null values, no issues, perfect. Now we can create a task without a Salesforce ID. Good. There is one thing though that we have, and since we already have a table, we will need maybe to run a query to update the table or to alter table to create a new ID. I'm going to make it easier. Let's delete the local database. So I'm going to delete the local database. It is on config. No, it is on share. No, local, share, tasks, and tasks DB. I'm sorry, I deleted. Let me run this list. It should give me nothing. Yes, I don't have tasks. Let me create a new task. The task is going to be a call. Call my codeLive friends. and the priority is going to be urgent. So we have all the different fields for my task. So this created a new task. Now I can list it, and I have the task locally, but it doesn't have a Salesforce ID. I'm going to modify the table, the extended version, to also show if I have a Salesforce ID or not. So let's go and modify the list command, create a new column for the field Salesforce ID. The header is going to be called synced. So I want to see if my column is synchronized or not. So here, if I have a Salesforce ID, it is synchronized, but I want to show the Salesforce ID in the output. So I can do something like this, row SFID. If it doesn't have a Salesforce ID, I'm going to be showing no. What is this get? Get is something that we have never seen with oclif. It is a way to execute a function to format the output of a column. Sometimes, maybe you have a Boolean value or you have a number that you want to convert to a more usable information for the user. In this case, I don't want to show just the ID. I want to format that information so I have easier information or better information for the humans that are consuming my command. And then I will say that this is an extended column. So it's only going to appear where I pass the X flag. How this looks like with the extended. Now it shows that it hasn't been synced. So those fields needs to be pushed to Salesforce. Fantastic. So now it's time to implement that logic. We have the sync command. And let's keep this for later. This is to do. Fetch tasks from Salesforce. What we are going to do now is get the local tasks without a Salesforce ID, right? How can we do this? We need to implement a new method here on our tasks.db library. Remember that we have a library with all the local database commands. We have one command that lists all the tasks. We are going to create one command to list all the tasks pretty much that are local. So let's create list local tasks. It returns an array of tasks. And pretty much what I'm doing is select all the tasks where the Salesforce ID is null. So right now, I am performing pretty much the same query as before, but only for the tasks that are not synchronized. And I am going to be working with those. So the local tasks are equal to the list local tasks. Okay, I have my local tasks now. Then I need to store these local tasks in Salesforce. So let me do an iteration. And what I need to do here is to create a new Salesforce task. So create a new Salesforce task. GitHub Copilot obviously is going to recommend me how to create this code. So I'm going to use it. So I'm creating a new Salesforce task using the connection object that I created previously. So this connection object is it's a JSForce connection object. So you will go ahead and take a look at JSForce documentation. Take a look at documentation. We have some CRUD operations. In CRUD operations, you can click on create, and here it will show you how can you create an object. So I already have the connection, so how can I create an object is by using this syntax. So I'm going to use that syntax here. I'm going to create one object called tasks. You can also create custom objects here. And I'm going to pass the properties. So what are the properties? The subject, the priority, the status, the description, because we are going to pass the comments, and that's it. Now we have a Salesforce task. This is the object that I created. In Salesforce, it will return a record. So this create command, it will return a record result with a record, and I will be able to get the ID or the Salesforce ID to update my database. But I have an error here. I have an error. It says that I have an unexpected await inside a loop. We are executing multiple asynchronous operations inside a loop. That doesn't sound very good, but JavaScript has something which is asynchronous iterators. I can pass a for await. This will run this iterator as an asynchronous iterator. So that way I will be able to execute these await operations here. And by running those await operations there, I can store or create my tasks in Salesforce. I can optimize this operation later in the future by, for example, creating an array of multiple tasks and just performing a bulk create. That would be more optimal, but I will keep it this way so we don't go into that optimization road. First implement the feature and then optimize. Okay. Oh, I have an error here. I don't have the DV instance. Let me copy this from the new command. Let me create a new database here on synchronization. I don't have the instance, and I need to import the database. I'm just copying some code. Okay, now I have access to my database class. I'm able to create the task, and I need to use this. So I need then to update the local task with the Salesforce ID. And this is suggesting me to run a code that I'm ignoring because I don't have any update task method that I need to create. So I need to go on my tasks DB, and below create task, I'm going to create an update task. Update task command. And this is almost magical. It is giving me the logic to update the task. So I'm setting the subject, I'm setting the priority, I'm setting the status, I'm setting the comment, and I'm setting the Salesforce ID, where the ID is equals to the local ID that I already have. And I'm going to be returning that task again to the one that it's calling this operation. So what I'm performing here is an update on my local database, updating everything. Maybe Salesforce is going to return more information, and I am updating the Salesforce ID. Cool. Now let's call this DV update task, and I just need to pass the task object. That's what I need to do here. what I need to do to update information. Yes, I need to pass the task information and set up the Salesforce ID. What is this in JavaScript? So I'm expanding the task object, which has the local database representation, and then I am adding a new property. This is the same as doing this dv update task. I just wanted to show you the other code. This is the same as doing id task.id, sfid doing this, subject is equals status subject, priority status, and comment. So I'm doing in this line the same thing as doing this. So what I'm expanding here, this is a expansion, object expansion in JavaScript using these three dots. I'm expanding this object into this other object, and then I'm adding a new property. So you know what's happening and don't see it as a super magical thing. Awesome. And then I'm going to log push task with subject and ID to Salesforce. Okay. So I'm showing the information where I'm synchronizing that I'm pushing this code. Maybe we don't need the subject. Let's just pass the ID. Should we try? Should we test? Let's do it. Let me go ahead, take a look. I have some tasks here locally. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 tasks. And let's see what happens if I run the synchronize with the org that belongs to me. Is this going to work? I'm curious. Okay. Push task with ID 1 to Salesforce, and then it is listing the tasks that are in Salesforce. Remember that I created this one. Call my codeLive friends. So if I refresh, I'm seeing now 7 items, and the last item, or the first here in this order, it says, call my codeLive friends. So this is, I don't want to print. So this is my new task that I created locally that then I push into Salesforce after synchronizing. Now, we need to implement the other way around. We need to push the Salesforce tasks and create them locally. Oh, also, let me see if the ls command now shows that my that my task is synchronized. Awesome. Now we see that it's telling me the information that this task is synchronized with Salesforce, and the Salesforce ID is this one. So it is giving me that information that I already pushed my tasks to Salesforce. Awesome. Let's continue. Let me see if I have some questions here. Bhaskar, thank you very much that you are liking this. Rohit, yeah, you are from Delhi, India, but you are in Malaysia. Awesome. Yes, you told me that you post that issue on the package.xml. The schema has that the package directories warning. It should be a warning, not an error. So let's hope that the Salesforce CLI team is able to investigate what is the cause of your issue. Let's continue with this. We need to do a lot of more stuff. Now that we are fetching the tasks from Salesforce, we need to store those tasks into my local database. Okay? But what I want to do is not duplicate efforts. I first need to check if I already have a task that is synchronized. If I already have a task that has that Salesforce ID. If that task exists, I'm not going to create it. If it doesn't exist, I need to update it. And for that, I need to implement a new database method. That new database method is going to be get a task by Salesforce ID. So I'm going to create get a task by Salesforce ID. I pass the Salesforce ID. Okay. I return either a task or null. And this is pretty much giving me all the tasks all the tasks where the Salesforce ID is null. No, where the Salesforce ID is equal the Salesforce ID I'm passing. Yeah, because I need to see if there is a task that exists with that Salesforce ID. Cool, cool, cool. Now let me use it here. So, how can I use this here? So let's get a local task by using that new command. Okay, I have a local task. If the local task doesn't exist, let's create a new task. This is listening to me. So I'm creating a new task with that Salesforce ID and with the other information, the subject, the priority, the status, the description. And I can say, okay, I pulled. I'm using the same idioms we use with the Salesforce CLI, like push and pull. So I pulled the task with that ID from Salesforce. Okay, let me see if this works. If I run the synchronization, crossing fingers. I have an error. What is that error? Remember that you can always pass debug to check those errors. Command not found. If it is command not found, I have a suspicion that I might have an error with the code. Oh, I have a JavaScript error. Type undefined is not assignable to type a string. Here. Okay. The ID definition of the record that is being returned from Salesforce, it is either a string or undefined. So I'm going to change this to expect either a string or undefined to get rid of that record, to that error. Yes. Awesome. Yes. Let me execute again. What I did was pretty much modifying my method to also accept undefined. Okay, it worked. It pulled the task with that ID from Salesforce. So if I list the extended version, what do we have? We have all the tasks. Remember that I only had one before. Now I have 7. The same ones that we have in Salesforce are locally. If I create a new one, let's say create a send quote, because we don't have any send quote here. Send quote. I created a send quote. I listed it should be not synchronized. It is not synchronized. If I run the synchronization command, it push that tasks with that ID to Salesforce. If I run again the ls, it should be synchronized with the ID. It is synchronized, and if I refresh Salesforce, I should have 8 items. I have synchronization. Awesome, this is great. But I am missing something. I wanna update tasks. If I update the tasks in Salesforce, I wanna have that information back into my project, into my local application. How can we do this? We are getting to the good part. So if the local task doesn't exist, I'm creating a new one. But if the local task has a Salesforce ID, so if it already have a Salesforce ID, I will update it. So I will update it with the ID is the local task ID. The Salesforce ID is the task ID. And then the subject is from Salesforce, the priority from Salesforce, the status from Salesforce, and the comment from Salesforce. So I am updating my local task with that Salesforce information. Oh, let me delete this. I don't need you. Okay. No errors. Okay. So what is the logic? If the task doesn't exist, create it. If it exists, if it has a Salesforce ID, Salesforce is going to be the source of truth in this case. I told you at the beginning that we can make it a little bit more complex, comparing the timestamps to be able to have like a different synchronization. If maybe the newest one is the local, then the newest is going to be the source of truth. But that will require a lot of more logic that if you want, you can implement it. But what I'm going to do here is respect Salesforce as the source of truth. So if Salesforce gets updated, my local tasks are going to be updated. So let's execute the synchronization. So this will always show you that we updated tasks. Yeah, maybe we can have a way to see if the task was updated or not. But so far, this is good enough. But let me change this comment. Call my codeLive friends during this live session. That's the new comment. And I'm going to be changing the status to in progress. So these two properties needs to be updated. Okay, so list the tasks that I have locally. And I have call my codeLive friends. And it is not started. If I synchronize, it shall update that task. And when I list again, it should show me that the task is in progress, and it should show like the full command. I can extend this. Let me see. The table has a flag to unwrap the task. The test. No truncate. Okay. No truncate. so I can read the full command. Sorry, the full comment. Okay, now I can read the full comment, call my codeLive friends during this live session. Awesome. So I was able to synchronize both between Salesforce and my app. But what if, this is where it gets hard. What if I delete this task? So let me delete it. Let me delete it. I have 7 here. If I synchronize, right, it's going to try to synchronize 7, not 8. So now it is trying to synchronize 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, not 8. But if I list the tasks, the codeLive one that I created here is going to remain. See? It is not being deleted. So my synchronization doesn't work. What I need to do is implement a way to delete the task. And that's going to be the last thing that we are going to implement. Clean up. So let's clean up deleted tasks. So first, we need to get the deleted tasks from Salesforce. So I'm going to get the deleted tasks. And for that, I'm going to use the query to run the command. Pretty much give me the ID. I just only need the ID from the task object where is deleted is equals true. Okay? Cannot use await inside a loop. I'm inside a loop. Okay, let's do this outside the loop. I don't want to be inside that loop. Yeah, I just want to do one cleanup operation. Okay, deleted tasks. And now what I need to do is obviously delete those tasks. Let me check the records that I'm getting from that query. And then I need to see if the local task exists. If it exists, I'm going to delete it. But I don't have a delete task method. So no, and I need to delete the task. Yeah, either with the local task, with the Salesforce ID or with the local task. Okay, so let's create delete task with the ID. The ID could be either number or big enter. And pretty much delete the task where ID is equals that thing. Awesome. So I'm going to delete this. It's complaining because it could be also undefined. Okay. Pass the undefined. The same thing we did before. It's asking for a new line. Cool. So usually when you pass the is deleted, it will get the tasks from the recycle bin. Okay. So let me try the synchronization again. And it will delete my task. So I will need to see the deleted tasks in there. And as you can see, it is not deleting the task. Why? Let me debug. So I can do a console log of those deleted tasks. And remember that for debugging, you need to pass the debug flag, always. And this also works on any Salesforce CLI command. If you want to see what's going on behind the scenes, pass this flag and you will see what happens, and maybe if you get a crazy error. Cool. So I'm taking a look at the query here. It is an API call. and it is not getting any records, but I already deleted records. So if you go to the documentation, for example, Salesforce get deleted records with the API, get a list of deleted records, SQL with API to retrieve the deleted records, all rows. This is not giving me information. Resources get deleted. This is calling directly the deleted with the SOAP API. With the REST API, maybe what we can do with the REST API. This is to delete a record. So get recycled bin Salesforce objects with REST API. How to query Salesforce recycled bin using the API. Resources get deleted, get updated. Okay, it seems this is one way, but JSForce doesn't expose this method for getting the get deleted or the deleted records on each specific time frame. What I saw or what I found earlier is that you are able to get those records if you use the query all REST API. So REST API, Salesforce query all. With the query all, you are able to get also those recycled bin objects. How can we execute a query all with JSForce? So JSForce, and this is a good way of using TypeScript. If you click on the query command with either Alt or Command, it will show you the types that it accepts. You see that it also receives an options argument. So I click here. This is the type definition. It receives a query options argument. And when I highlight the query options argument, it showed me a property called scan all. That scan all is going to perform a query all, pretty much a query all API request, so I can get also the recycle bin methods. Let me pass that query all as an argument here. Scan all equals true. I'm passing the scan all equals true. And now, if I execute this, I should have deleted records. And if I have deleted records, I will be able to clean up my local database. So I found 4 deleted records and I was able to delete my local task. So now let me list my tasks. And the number 1, it is deleted. I don't have it here. And that's pretty much it. Let me repeat the process. So I create a new task, new. This task is going to be I have others and quotes and letter. Let's do an other. I created a new other. This is not synchronized. So I need to synchronize this with Salesforce using synchronize and my user or my org. It synchronizes, it stores that thing in Salesforce. Oh, I can delete this console log. I don't need this console log here. Cool. And then my org, I can remove, let's say, this send letter. Delete. And let me delete this call. So I'm deleting two objects. And if I execute the synchronization again, it will update the ones that I updated in Salesforce and delete two tasks that I already deleted. I list my tasks and I should have only 5, if I'm not wrong. Oh, 6. Awesome. And that's pretty much it. What we can do after, if you want to do it, is improving the UX. For example, storing the org, so you don't need to always pass that organization. You can use the config plugin to store values on the local directory, or you can store it on the local database if you want. So when you pass it for the first time, it gets stored, so you don't need to pass it every time. You can perform that synchronization, checking the dates, but that might be a little bit more complex. You can implement an update command locally. For example, if you want to update the task locally, changing the comment or changing the priority, and then run the synchronize, you will be able to update the task in Salesforce. So that's another good challenge you can implement. And use the same information to create your own tools. Now you can interact with other objects, maybe a custom object for your application. Maybe you want to interact with a CLI to manage leads, to manage contacts, to manage accounts. I don't know. You have your own problems to solve. And with this information I shared with you in these 4 episodes, you are going to be able to solve the problems. Last but not least is our commit. We implemented this information. Let's add this into our repo. Implement Salesforce sync. Let's push origin main. So you have this source code. I tried the all rows in the end of the query, but it failed. It is showing an error that it cannot be done within the context. You can give it a try. I added the all rows and it failed when using the API. So this is what I needed to find a different way, and I found that way through JS Force. But adding that all rows failed for me. Okay, now you have the source code on the GitHub repo. Go ahead, take a look. It has all the synchronization implementation, the database logic, and please build solutions, build tools, build CLI applications for your projects, and let me know what you are building. Remember, if you want to publish this, let's do a couple of steps. I can run the build command. This is going to build my project for production. That's something we missed. So build command builds our project for production. So now I have the run command, which is the production version. It's going to be faster. And you can also do npx oclif readme. npx oclif readme is going to update the readme of your project with the documentation. So let me add the README, git commit update README, git push origin main. And if I go to my repo, now you can see that the README has all of the commands. So it is documented, including the authentication commands that we installed through the plugin, because the plugin, the authentication plugin, now it is part of our project. And you can also publish using oclif. npx oclif publish, or package, I guess. Package. No, it's pack. Let me get the help. Yes. You will be able to pack this CLI for Windows, for Mac OS, for Debian, for Tarball, like TG tar GC. If you want to distribute this package to other people in your team, or if you want to publish it to NPM, just do npm publish, and this will be published to NPM so you can install it and run in there. Okay, that's everything I had for you. Thank you very much for joining me in this codeLive. This is the last of the series of building a CLI application using oclif. Later, in some weeks, I'm going to be teaching you how to build a Salesforce CLI plugin. Now we are going to deep down on building CLI plugins for Salesforce. So things are going to be slightly different, but all the fundamentals you have learned with this series are going to be applied there. Thank you very much, and see you on the next one. Bye-bye.